We haven't learned from history, and I am one of the few surviving people who actually have lived through the Second World War. I lost all my family, but I can tell you the story later. And now when I hear the kind of return to almost fascism or anti-Semitism or hatred or distortion of history, I get more upset about it than almost anything else. So yes, I do want to talk about it. My aunt said we have to try and escape from it, because if we stay, it's a sure death. If we try to escape, it's a possible death, because some people tried to do that and didn't manage. Crossing the road meant going for life, because crossing the road was outside of the ghetto. But crossing the road was incredibly dangerous, because if they saw us, there were German soldiers all over the place, and if they saw us, they would shoot us. There was no question about it. As my aunt was saying, she was watching the soldiers, and when they were marching backwards and forwards, crossing and going away, she was looking for the moment when they were looking away, and she said, "Go, and don't run, walk slowly." And we managed to get to the other side, which was the Christian side. We took our armbands, which had the Magen David, it's called, the Star of David. We took it off. How it was organized, I shall never know, but maybe my father fixed it all up, that there was somebody on the other side waiting with a car. And we just managed to get into the car, taken the armbands off, and breathe heavily. That's all I remember. And we got to somebody's flat that, again, was organized probably by my father. And then we were taken to the basement of that flat, just in case somebody maybe noticed or we looked too suspicious. We were in the basement of people who obviously were trying to help us. And then the other thing I remember very clearly was that my aunt decided that we should go to the country and get out from the town. And then she invented a whole story that she had tuberculosis, or maybe I was ill, we needed fresh air. And so we arrived in this tiny little village, and it was not in the season, so it was quite cold. And the old man, farmer, who had this little cottage, took us in. Obviously she had some money to give him. And she said to me, it was very, very small, and he was in the kitchen, he showed us the bedroom. And my aunt said, "Go on, do what you have to do," which meant, make sure he knows I'm a good Christian. So I knelt down, crossed myself, and prayed. And actually, I knew more about that than I knew about my own religion. So it didn't come with great difficulty, so that he could see that we were good, staunch Catholics. It was my first acting job. I realized my parents did not manage to escape. And they were both killed in a concentration camp. I went to the Wiener Library, where they have all kinds of documentations about the Second World War. There were two nice German women working there, and they gave me coffee, and they were just wonderful. And I think they were working in the Vienna Library in order to come to terms with themselves being German. And so they wanted to do something which would help other people. And so I waited, I drank my coffee, and after about, I can't remember how long, the woman came back with documents, because she called Yad Vashem, which was in Israel, and in there they have documentation almost of everybody who perished. And there it was in black and white. We all cried, we all hugged each other. It was an incredible experience. And the worst thing that hit me, how can anything be worse, was that my parents were actually separated because there was about 4 or 5 months difference in time. Oh. And that was awful, knowing how attached my mother was to my father. That it must have been hell. So I have been through it. I couldn't understand why. And coming back to here and now, when people say, and some people actually do say it, the Holocaust, well, maybe it was manufactured by the Jew in order to get the state of Israel, it really hits me. The whole hatred. Look, nobody is perfect. There are horrible Jews, there are horrible Christians, there are horrible Muslims. That is not a question. But to damn a whole race for nothing more but just because they're race, I still think now that it was the greatest evil that ever happened.